this house. It's the Red Hot Mic. This is how we do it. Once again, cheers to the best of you and all of you. Peace.
In our current global climate, we're facing challenges never before experienced by this generation. Oppositions where no one seems to have clear directions or answers to the risks facing us. Confrontations like racial and gender unrest, political gerrymandering, toxic leadership, economic crisis, global pandemic, health threats, pre-existing medical conditions, isolation, boredom, and loneliness are driving people to desperation. As a result, people are confused, afraid, anxious, and perplexed, and they need answers to some tough questions and even tougher situations. They are looking into different outlets for answers to gain assurance and consolation. Some have drawn closer to the embrace of family, while others look more towards their friendships, education, and even religion. What we need is a fresh voice of truth and clarity, and not a stale religious echo from the past. There's a re-emerging voice on the horizon that isn't afraid to stand alone and give spiritual and mentally sound direction to a world searching for answers. G. Alfred Palmer offers a voice of sound human development and empowerment to those willing to hear. There's a need for new ideas to old principles, a perspective from a timeless origin, but with current vision, a thought leader who understands what it means to stand alone and speak truth when some are hard of hearing. But if you've been waiting to hear a voice that opens the gates of freedom and breaks the shackles of confusion to allow you to step forward into the dawning of a new and exciting future, then it's time to bridge the gap with Dr. G. Alfred Palmer. He is a dynamic speaker, thought leader, and entrepreneur, equipped to elevate, expand, and extend the development, empowerment, and leadership of his audiences. He stands ready to speak at your next event. His delivery is guaranteed to refresh, entertain, and transform. G. Alfred Palmer bridges the gap from uncertainty to the purpose, to passion, and leadership. Book him today for your next event, and you won't be disappointed.
right. Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Red Hot Mic. I am your host, Jeff Palmer, and I am glad to have you here with me once again. Well, it's time to get to work. And getting to work means that we put on Clark Kent and we do it a little bit differently. I'm trying to get the hat right because sometimes this brim doesn't want to act right. But anyway, we'll just do it whatever we can with it. Okay. I'm excited. Welcome to the Red Hot Mic once again. I am your host, G. Alfred Palmer. I'm going to take off the glasses. I am glad that you're with me one more time to talk about some things that I think that make life different, make life more adventurous, make life more entertaining and enjoyable. I mean, maybe not entertaining because life isn't supposed to be as entertaining as some of us is making it. It should be more of service and enjoying providing service is not an issue. I enjoy doing what I'm doing and providing the service to all my clients and to all my people that I work with, and I'm grateful for the part you play in my life, and I hope you feel the same way as well. So we're gonna get rid of some of this other stuff so we can not be as distracted. Okay? Is that okay? Okay. Now, I still don't like the brim. It's not acting right tonight. Anyway, okay. Tonight we're going to pick up on the second part of what we talked about the last time we were together. And the last time we were together, we talked about why does he act the way he acts? Why does he act that way? You ever asked that question? Ladies, you ever asked that question? Why does he act that way? You want to know. What I'm doing is I'm coming from answering this particular question from a developmental psychology perspective, along with some philosophical perspective as well. Because what we want to do is allow ourselves to, what we always talk about, ruminate, elevate, and activate. That's what we do on this channel. Ruminate, elevate, and activate. Those are important qualities for us to go from one level to the next. And if you would, before I get too far gone, I want you to, if you would you please subscribe, like, share, and hit this notification bell so that you can be notified when other content hits the internet, the social media platforms. We're on several tonight. And you look down in front of me, you'll see several books, a couple of books of mine, and then one of my mentor. We want to give you a gift of, if not those, some of the other books that we have available to you. All we want you to do is to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give us your information over on our website. And the web page is in the description below. So you go there and just give us your information, and we will send you a free gift. Okay? Why does he act the way that he acts? Is a question that whether it's male or female, we ask, why do you act like that way? Why does he act that way? Well, we want to talk about that. Why does he act that way? And that way he acts is not by happenstance. It's not by some coincidence. There's some things that go into these whole ideas to why he acts the way he acts. Still like that. I don't think I'm gonna wear this one again. I have a bunch of them, so as you see. So the last time we were talking about this topic, we were answering the question, we were looking at developmental psychology from the perspective of looking at how he goes through the stages of development. And going through those stages of development brings about certain uh, characteristics, certain markers become evident. And as those markers become evident, they contribute to his developmental perspective. And as a result, you get what you get. And the last time we were together, I believe that we talked about childhood being from ages 1 to 5. I also talked briefly about the 6 stages. There's actually 8. The 6 stages of the developmental process, which all of us go through, which is mental development, cognitive development, emotional development, physiological development, philosophical development, intellectual development, and chronological development. I believe that's all of it. And so those developmental processes are important to the maturity of him, or the lack of maturity of him. And so it's important that what we understand as being masculine development is critical to us going from boyhood to malehood to manhood. And this is where our problems are coming in relationally, because we look at 2 criteria. We look at chronological, which is age, and we look at physiological, which is build. And we think because he's built or he's reached a certain age that he must be developed in the other 6 areas that we just mentioned. And in most cases, and not most, some cases, that's not true, depending on how he has been reared. So those 6 developmental processes we have taken, and we're going to get to them, and we're going to define them and paint a more direct picture of them. But first, we want to talk about the stages of development. In the stages of development, we talked about childhood being from the ages 1 to age 5, and then boyhood being from age 6 to age 11. Now, it's important that we understand that there are characteristics that go with that. And in the last broadcast, I think we finished with the boyhood ages 6 through 11. So what we want to do is pick up from that, and we want to go to what we call malehood. Now, it's important for you to understand that the stages of maturity goes from childhood to boyhood to malehood to manhood. Okay, and it's the same way with the female gender. It goes from childhood to girlhood to femalehood to womanhood, and it all depends on the developmental growth of the individual. Not everyone is going to reach their uh, apex in developmental growth, but you can arrest this. If there's any stunt in your growth, you can rescue it and begin to remedy it through development. And we're going to show you how to do that. But let's talk about malehood. Malehood. Now, here's the problem. Well, let's define it this way. Malehood is experienced between the ages of 12 to 19, roughly between 12 and 19. Boys move from boyhood to malehood and become more internalized and self-dominant. They become self-dominant focused. Okay, they become more internal meaning that they become more and more focused on self and the whole idea of self-dominance and how they can become more dominant. So whereas boys become males and they focus on self-autonomy, and awareness becomes more pronounced. So they become more and more self-focused and dominant focused, how they can go ahead and dominate you or so. And this happens with men who are stunted in their growth in this period. And what happens is they have a tendency to become abusers, because in this particular age stage, there is a whole focus toward self-dominance and forceful dominance and toward violence. Okay, and it's because of this forceful dominance, this forcefulness, this leaning toward force, which tends to lead toward violence, that they don't learn the proper places for that type of behavior, as opposed to taking it out on those that shouldn't be focused toward. Okay, so when we start talking about malehood, we're talking about the physiological and the chronological development that takes center stage. And here, the boy that becomes a male begins to experience changes in his body, changes in his growth pattern. Feet become larger, hands become larger, genitals, hair, pubic hairs, and all those kinds of things begin to take a part, begin to increase. And with that comes a lack of coordination, because of the bodies beginning to then they begin to experience growth that they've never experienced before, and so they don't know how to handle it physiologically, and that those changes also come with the physical growth and the strength and the power, and with that comes a unstable emotional perspective, and so they're not as emotionally stable, as because they're experiencing emotions that they may not have before. They don't know how to experience those emotions. They don't know how to channel those emotions. The easiest emotion that they know how to channel is either anger, right? Anger becomes very, very easy, and in emotions that are surrounded with having sex, lust. Okay, so these become very easy for the male to identify with, because those are much readily identifiable to them and to him, as he has entered into this new dimension of growth and development. He's not sure of himself. He's not, and he's not able to identify emotions. He's not, because by and large, males are not emotionally leaned or focused or centered beings. Males are more, they're in this phase, they're really more focused toward dominance and their physicality. They're looking at this change in their body, and they're seeing that they're becoming physically mature, and as a result of that, it brings about a lot of different dynamics, emotionally, cognitively, mentally, and what have you. So he begins to experience some of the identification markers, like growth spurt, like what we talked about. He gets the muscles, and he begins to see wrestling and using of force and violence as a means of overpowering by force and getting what he wants. And then the other thing that becomes a very, very pronounced aspect of malehood is competition, and it's because of that sports and athletics becomes very, very important, because competition is a means of using force, right? Is a means of using violence, and a means of gaining mastery over someone else. So he uses these things. Now it's almost identical to what females experience in this age group on the flip side, whereas hypergamy or hypergamy, as some people call it, in females, males experience chauvinism and sexual dominance, sexual focus, and sexual focus and sexual dominance in this area. in this stage. So these are very important stages to him, just like hypergamy is to the female. Now, some of the influencers that he will experience that will promote his behavior will definitely be sports. Sports is going to help him to continue to accentuate the chauvinists, to accentuate the violence, the ability to use force, to use power, the power of force and competition, okay, and allows him to begin to continue to grow in this mastery of how he gets what he wants when he uses violence. So school becomes, in sports and athletics becomes an influencer. Culture becomes an influencer because some of the culture that he finds himself more and more attached to may be sports, maybe athletics, it may be music, whatever it is. It's going to feed into the 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 aspects of him that are growing, that he finds to be appealing and gets him the results that he longs for, but at the same token helps him to even become more influenced by those aspects of his personality, whether they're physical or mental, and use them as get what he wants. So social media plays a role, family plays a role, school plays a role. His friends become a bigger part of his influence as well. And it depends on the individual. Some people are leaders, and some guys are followers. And because of that, you'll see what type of individual he is by, does he keep a lot of company? Do you find him around guys all the time, or is he more of a loner? And if he's more of an individual that has a tendency to be by himself, that will dictate a great deal of the kind of man, the kind of male that you have on your hand. Not a man yet, because still we have to understand that manhood and malehood are not the same. Now, it's important for you to understand that, because we use some examples of maleness, and we identify them as being manhood, and they're not. For instance, beta male, alpha male. These are extremes within the malehood dynamic that we have ascribed to manhood, but they are not. And so, and it's because they lack the development or are underdeveloped mentally, emotionally, cognitively, in the areas, in the 6 of the 8 areas that we talked about at the outset of the broadcast. So when we understand, it's important to understand that when we talk about the idea of malehood is not manhood. I'll say it again. Malehood is not manhood. They are not the same. They're different. And it's important that we understand that. Now, it's in this whole idea of malehood that many get stuck. Many get stuck because they think that this particular stage feels good because they're at their optimum in every area physically, right? Their dominance physically, right? And because of that, they have a tendency to get stuck in this particular stage of development. And this stage of development happens to be one that they enjoy. And it's because of this that they'll continue to matriculate and get older chronologically. They may even continue to develop physiologically, but they won't grow emotionally, cognitively, and it's because they like where they are. And it's like many of us, we enjoy where we are, and we don't want to move from this place where we are. We love how things were in high school. We love the way we act and how we performed and how people respected us or how people looked toward us. And as a result of that, we want to stay at that place. And as a result, some of the other aspects of that developmental process don't take place either. And as a result, they may get older, but they don't matriculate into manhood. Okay, so it becomes important that we continue to appreciate where we are, and as opposed and appreciate where we've been and those times that we were the big man on campus. But it's time to move on, and you can be thankful for those memories, but there is a time to move on emotionally, cognitively, mentally, and physically and chronologically. You're going to get older, your body's going to change, so you need to be able to understand that it's time when it's time to move on. So the next phase, the next stage or next phase of development is what we call adulthood or manhood. Now, it's important that you understand that manhood is between the ages of 20 to 75 for men. Men have a longer period of manhood, and in that manhood, they can still procreate, can still have children, can still father, and etc. They still function at a higher level than their counterpart, than the female, because the female, if we're going to talk about it, but females age quicker and get older quicker than men do, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that that makes a lot of sense. Now you may not like it, but it makes a lot of sense. So when we start looking at manhood, we're looking at that there are three substages within manhood. Okay, there are three substages within manhood, and there are some identifiable markers that we need to look at. Now, the first stage is early manhood. Early manhood is between the ages 20 and 25, where independence and competitiveness are the key. And where that is where we become competitive in the job market, entrepreneurially, we become athletically, in every area of life, we become independent and we become competitive. And it's important to understand that this is normal and is a part of the development and necessary for him to matriculate further through the stages of manhood and to matriculate to a place of maturity. So he needs to be able to be independent. He needs to feel and to experience competitiveness. Because if he doesn't have that sense of competitiveness, you'll find yourself with a man that has no sense of adventure. He has no sense of drive. He has no sense of determination. And so it's probably has a lot to do with his early manhood, where he didn't have to feel this air of independence, because there was someone taking care of him that did everything for him that he didn't have to do for himself, but that he should have been doing for himself. And so because of that, he doesn't feel the air of competition, because he doesn't feel he has to compete for anything, because everything is given to him. But it's important that we understand and teach our young men, that it's okay to be competitive. You should be competitive. We should encourage competitiveness in our young men. But yet, many of our in single family homes, single parent homes, namely, discourage competitiveness. They don't want the boy, the young man. He's not a boy. They don't want the young man to be competitive, but it's necessary. Okay. Now, the middle age or the middle stage within manhood is between the ages of 26 to 60. 26 to 60, and in those areas, the key identifier markers are security, family, and legacy. Security, family, and legacy. These are the aspects that become important to a man. Now, you can't tell him what's important to him. Okay? You can't tell him what should be important to him. You need to ask him what's important to him, because not everything is going to be in the same order. For some, it will be security that will take preeminence. For others, it will be family, and for others, it will be legacy. So when we talk about legacy, we're talking about children. You know, some men want children. They don't want others' children. They want their own children. And so it becomes important and imperative that they have their own, because between the ages 26 and 60, they have the ability to have children, and if they and even have grandchildren, and that even more points toward legacy. So for them, for the middle age or the middle staged man, he becomes very, very focused on the thing that's important to him. It may be security, and insecurity is the whole idea of employment, or it may be entrepreneurial. It may be his business. It may be what, and he's going to be focused. He's going to be, and for many, I need to say this. For many men, this is where purpose becomes imperative. It becomes imperative that you find purpose and begin to focus and to work toward purpose, because in purpose, you'll find the security, you'll find the legacy in the family, and everything else that you're looking for in life. So it becomes important that in the middle stage of life, when you're the most productive, when you're the strongest, when you are the most intellectual, when you are the most refined, when you're and where all the characteristics seem to be pointing in a way of productivity, in a way of prosperity, in the way of, you name it, in the way of everything working in your benefit. It is important that you understand that during this particular phase, you be active. You be active. We talk about ruminate, we talk about elevate, and we talk about activate. So we want you to be activating and to be active in your purpose in this stage. It is critical. It is critical, critical, critical. I can't say it enough. Now, so that's the second stage in manhood. We talked about the early stage, we talked about the middle stage, and now the late stage. The late stage of manhood is between the ages of 61 to 75. 61 to 75, where he begins to focus on health, retirement, and once again, even more so, legacy. If you understand one thing about a man, legacy is important to him. To a man, legacy is important. His legacy, not yours. Not your children, ladies, with another man. That's not what's important to him. What's important is his legacy, because his legacy is his offspring with you, not another man's offspring with you. Sure, he can love you, but that still does not negate the fact that that is not his offspring. That is not his legacy. I don't care if he brings them up, it's still not his legacy. His legacy is between you and him, and that which is created between the two of you, and not between you and someone else. Now, someone's not going to like that, but that's the truth of the matter. So a man's health becomes more important. Sure, it's going to be, and this is the time when diet becomes more critical. You have to change diet and change. You can't eat the way you used to eat. You can't do it. You can't drink the way you used to drink. You can't do it. And it's because your body is changing, right? Physiologically, you're changing. Your body is changing. And because of that, your body can't handle some of the things that you used to. So you have to become more health conscious, and it becomes the necessity of changing your diet becomes more and more imperative. The next thing is retirement. In between the ages of 61 and 75, the man has to start looking toward retirement. What is he going to do with the remainder of his life, the next 20 to 30 years of his life, the end part, the last third of his life? What does he want to do? What does he want to do in retirement? How does he want to? And see, here's the thing. I use the word retirement, but I hate the word retirement, because really and truthfully, you really never retire, especially if you find purpose. You will not retire from purpose, because you're never called to retire from purpose. So that's important to understand. But what we will hear people say time and time again, and I used it in this, is the word retirement. But retirement is really not a good word. It's not a word that we should even be focusing on. But still, one thing that we should be focusing on is, once again, legacy, and leaving a legacy for those that belong to us, right? Those that belong to us, our children and our children's children. We leave for them. See, here's the problem. Most of our parents didn't leave us anything, did they? Come on, let's be honest. Most of our parents didn't leave us anything, but they demanded from you because you were their offspring, as if you owed them something, when in all actuality, what they owed was a legacy for you to build off of. And that's where one of the issues that some cultures lack is the ability to have a legacy to build off of, because they don't have the financial wherewithal to be able to do that. Okay, so the late stage of manhood. Now, some of the influencers, when we start talking about manhood, is culture. Culture becomes very important to him, and how he moves about within culture becomes important. Now, what is that? What does that look like? Well, he becomes more conscious of what's going on within his surroundings and around him that influences his environment. He becomes more conscious of that. He becomes more, another influencer is his children. His children or his children's children becomes more and more important to him because, again, his legacy. What else becomes an influencer is his education. His business endeavors is important. His education is important. His material gain and wealth becomes important. And his religion or his spirituality becomes important. These are influencers within his life as well. So that's where men are in manhood. Now, there's one more phase, and the last phase that a man will experience is called seniorhood. And in seniorhood is approximately between the ages of 76 to 85. Okay, 76 to 85 and beyond. Okay, and again, there's three phases here, and these three phases are the early, middle, and late. And the early, middle, and late focuses on this. Early seniorhood is between 65 and 84, and that's the focus on retirement. Middle seniorhood is between 85 and 99, and where health and routine becomes more and more of a focus. And lastly is 99 through the end of life, where final arrangements are made, and the arrangements of disseminating wealth and departing and preparing for departure from this life. So here's why we as males have not done well in relationships. We haven't done well in relationships because we don't have proper development. We don't have proper development in the areas that it most counts. And it most counts in the areas that we talked about cognitively, we talked about emotionally, we talked about mentally, philosophically, psychologically, and so these are the areas that we need to focus more on than just the chronological and the physiological. And so it's important that if a man's going to reach manhood, if a boy's going to reach manhood, he has to be mentored. He has to be shown the way. He has to be discipled. Disciple means discipline, to be disciplined in a certain area. And so to be disciplined in a certain area means that he learns how to function, and to do that, he has to be mentored by someone who has gone through what he's going through to help him to navigate through that which he's going through. Because if he doesn't have someone to help navigate, he will have some issues in how he gets stuck. And this happens to so many so many males that get stuck, like we talked about before, in malehood and never really matriculate to manhood. And so they stay stuck as beta males, or they become alpha males, which are two extremes, right? One extreme or the other, but both are males. They're still not men. I'll say that again. Beta and alpha males are still not men. They are still in the malehood stage. And what happens is beta males have a tendency to be very lenient, subservient, and almost feminized. Whereas the alpha male, it becomes almost a bully, almost over a chauvinist, okay, and almost uh, a bully, because he uses that whole idea of physicality and chronological development as a means of, as a crutch, and as a means of getting what he wants. He's still in that mindset of that violence works, force works, muscle works, and he lacks the mental, emotional, and the cognitive development necessary to be a man. Okay, so, well, that's it for tonight, and I hope you gain something from that. If you would, I really would appreciate you being a part of this broadcast. And if you would, give us your information so we can send you the link to this broadcast, so that you can come on this broadcast and we can talk on this broadcast right here, and have you ask questions, or we can talk about development. We can talk about some things, and we can just sharpen each other. Iron sharpens iron. I'm not here to debate. I'm here to just to carry mail. And other than that, then we can talk. I would love it. I need you to be a part of this experience. I need you to subscribe, to like, to share, and hit the notification bell. It is imperative that you do that. Help me out, please. I need you to do that. And as we continue to move forward, we're going to continue to touch some areas in that I hope that will benefit you. Now, also, I want to say before closing, I want to invite you to our other channel, which is called Purpose Sphere. Purpose Sphere is where we deal with from a much more spiritual perspective the whole idea of what we call the theory of purposeology. The theory of purposeology is the study of purpose and how to identify purpose, how to find focus, form, and bring into fruition individual purpose. So I invite you to come over there as well. We'll put the link to that also in the description area as well. Well, I hope you got something out of this. I hope you understand a little bit more why he acts the way he does. Why he acts the way he does. And a lot of times, ladies, you got to understand, you picked him. You picked him, and maybe you didn't know what you were getting into, but maybe you should have investigated a little further before you did. Well, anyway, maybe you're working your way through it, maybe not. Maybe you've given up on it and you decided to move on. Either way, that's your life. You can do it however you see fit. But the bottom line is, whatever relationship you find yourself in, is best to understand the developmental process of masculine and feminine, in order so you can locate that individual and to see if there's a match between the two of you, or if there's more work in that relationship than you're willing to invest and need to be, and you need to move on. So in this particular broadcast, and the one before it, is basically giving you the information to be able to make those decisions. I hope you're able to do that and to do what's best for you. Sure, they may be hurt, they may be emotionally hurt, but you don't owe your life to anyone. You owe your life to the Creator who sent you here to fulfill purpose. And in order to do that, you've got to find purpose. And you've got to find and understand that not everyone that's connected, that comes in your life, is really there. They're only there for a season or a reason, but they're not there for the duration. And so understanding that, we need to understand that sometimes it becomes that time to move on. Okay? So, well, I hope you got something out of it, because I enjoyed sharing it with you. I really did. Well, it's time to say goodnight and to toast you once again because of what you were able to gain, were able to glean, how you ruminated, elevated, and activated here tonight to you. So, you know what I like. So we have to do this one more again as we prepare. As we prepare to say goodnight, until the next time we come together, always remember, you are the reason that you're here. And the reason that you're here is to help somebody else.